There's a number Carolina fans can't scrub from the scoreboard in their minds, and after Game 3 it just climbed to 15. 15 consecutive losses in the Eastern Conference Final, an NHL record no one wants to own. For an organization that dances through the first 2 rounds like clockwork, the Canes somehow transform into a crash test dummy at the penultimate hurdle. And here come the Florida Panthers again, grinning behind a 3-0 series stranglehold, broomsticks polished. The obvious question now screams louder than the storm surge drums inside PNC Arena. Is this nightmare a tactical mismatch, a mental curse, or the first visible cracks in a roster that's been quietly decaying for years? Cast your mind back to 2009. Sidney Crosby's Penguins waltzed through Raleigh and swept the Hurricanes in 4 painless games. A decade later, the Bruins repeated the routine, blanking the Canes with the ruthlessness of a metronome. In 2023, the Panthers copied and pasted that humiliation. And here in 2025, Florida hasn't just resumed the script, they've punched fast forward. The combined score through 3 games is 16-4 and counting, and the optics are painfully familiar. A Carolina team that looks bulletproof against everyone else suddenly loses its offensive faucet, defensive structure, and emotional composure in the conference final. Each spring, the fan base promises, this version is different. Each spring, the result is identical. Fast-paced, analytics-approved 5-on-5 dominance in earlier rounds dissolves into a puddle once the calendar flips to late May. Same crestfallen faces on the bench, same stunned crowd filing out early. History isn't whispering anymore, it's screaming through a megaphone. After the 2023 embarrassment, head coach Rod Brind'Amour bristled at reporters. That wasn't a sweep, he insisted, his logic being that every game was a 1-goal nail-biter, so the margin proved nothing. His words went viral, half rallying cry and half punchline. 2 seasons later, the ledger against Florida in the conference final reads Panthers 7, Hurricanes 0. Brind'Amour's quote didn't just age poorly, it etched itself into hockey folklore. Players claim they ignore social media, but everyone in that dressing room knows the meme, a still frame of Rod yelling, "Not a sweep," pasted onto a broom handle. The longer the streak grows, the louder that meme echoes. You can almost see the doubt drifting into Carolina's passing lanes each time Florida jumps ahead. Florida isn't merely outskating Carolina, the Panthers are weaponizing Carolina's signature playbook. Paul Maurice unleashes a 5-man neutral zone swarm that forces dump and chase entries. Then his soldiers win the retrieval race, bump the puck to the weak side, and convert defense into one-touch strike packages. Carolina built its own reputation on suffocating forechecks, yet in this matchup, it's Florida who stalks like a pack of wolves. Watch the tape. When Brent Burns rims the puck, Barkov angles him toward the board, and Sam Reinhart scoops up the crumb to launch a 3-on-2. Within seconds, you see the red goal light and Freddie Anderson staring at the ceiling. Through 3 games, Florida owns an absurd 42-18 edge in slot chances and a +6 margin in special teams goals. The math isn't complicated. Every time Sergei Bobrovsky sees the puck, he's ready. Every time Anderson sees it, he's screened by Panthers traffic. Game 1 was the cruelties. Carolina generated 78 shot attempts to Florida's 46 and still lost 3-2. Game 2 flipped from quantity to drought. Only 17 total shots, the Canes' lowest output in 2 seasons, and the shoot the puck chants reigned from frustrated fans. Game 3 followed the newer trend. Just 22 shots, almost none from prime real estate, and the Panthers turned every rebound into a jailbreak counter. The penalty kill, once an untouchable fortress, has meanwhile collapsed. Carolina opened these playoffs killing 28 of 30 penalties. Elite, almost cocky. Against Florida, they have already surrendered 4 power play strikes, most coming on near-identical backdoor tap-ins. You see Jordan Staal tap his stick on the ice in anger, but sticks don't block passing lanes by themselves. A week ago, Freddie Anderson looked immortal. .937 save percentage, 1.38 goals against average, legitimate Conn Smythe buzz. Now, those numbers have detonated. Through 3 games, he's hovering around a .760 save percentage and a 6-pack of goals against each night. Anderson's medical history, knee flares, groin tweaks once made him hockey's porcelain doll, but this collapse isn't about pulled muscles. It's about a defensive shell that's crumbled like wet cardboard in front of him. Look closer and you'll spot spot the chain reaction. Carolina's forwards lose board battles. Panthers circle to the slot. Defenders collapse too late. Anderson swims through 3 bodies and a double screen. Blame fatigue, blame system gaps, blame astrology. The scoreboard doesn't care. In the playoffs, numbers are tattoos. Carolina's roster construction has always been more Swiss watch depth than superstar sparkle. That can work in an 82-game grind, but conference finals usually spotlight the guy who shouts, "Get on my back." Alexander Barkov shouts it in 3 languages. Matthew Tkachuk screams it with a smirk. Carolina's answer, Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov have combined for a single goal in this series. The front office tried to rent Mikko Rantanen last deadline. Negotiations stalled. Rantanen ended up scorching nets in Dallas instead. Management pivoted to committee scoring, but committees don't tilt playoff series against 4-line buzzsaw teams. Watching Florida roll Verhaeghe, Lundell, Luostarinen as a 3rd line while Carolina leans on aging veterans for secondary punch is like comparing a Tesla to a lawnmower. Both move forward, only one does it with horsepower to spare. Here's the savage irony. Carolina's trademark aggression once forced opponents into panic, clears, and ambulance passes. In this matchup, Florida owns that patent. Barkov angles defensemen, Reinhart pinches walls, and suddenly the puck is back behind Carolina's net. Each lost breakout seeds another hooking penalty, and Florida's power play, lubricated by Tkachuk chaos and Ekblad point bombs, makes them pay full retail. You can measure energy shifts by crowd noise. Every time Florida's forecheck corners Brent Burns, the decibel meter in Sunrise spikes. By the 3rd period, Burns looks 10 years older, lungs heaving, clearing attempts wobbling toward nobody. Florida recycles the puck, slips a pass into the bumper slot, and the lamp flashes red again. Management knows the competitive window isn't infinite. Martin Nakis is arbitration eligible and rumored trade bait for a legitimate sniper. Seth Jarvis, still on a bargain bridge deal, will soon demand big boy money. The blue line is paid handsomely but trending older. Brent Burns turns 40 next March. Brady Skiai hits free agency in July, and Jacob Slavin can test the open market in 2 summers if things sour. Owner Tom Dundon has never shied from big swings. Witness last summer's Brent Burns acquisition, but there's a difference between aggressive and reckless. Re-upping everyone pushes the payroll into tax bracket territory. Letting core pieces walk risks a slide back to mediocrity. Lose this series in 4 and the fan base wants a blockbuster. Win a couple to make it competitive, and maybe the brain trust argues for patience. One result writes a eulogy, the other extends the grace period. Sports curses thrive where numbers and narrative overlap. 15 straight conference final losses is fertile soil for superstition. Hurricanes Twitter coined the hashtag #TeenL Club, printing t-shirts faster than penalty minutes. Fans mock up voodoo dolls wearing the old 2006 Stanley Cup patch, wondering if the franchise sold its soul for that lone championship. Players insist they don't believe in ghosts, but human brains are sponges. When Panthers score first, the camera catches that quarter-second eyelid flicker on Sebastian Aho's face. The look of a man hearing every snarky podcast highlight in real time. The longer the drought persists, the heavier the sticks feel. Yet hockey is weird, and curses evaporate when the puck bounces kindly. Carolina can punch back if they're willing to abandon autopilot. The first adjustment, controlled entries, not blind dump-ins. Svechnikov barreling through the dots, Jarvis slashing wide, then cutting inside forces Florida's defense to pivot instead of retrieve. Second, low-to-high puck movement that drags Panthers forwards toward the hash marks, freeing Burns or Skiai for point blasts. Add Jordan Stahl's 6'4" frame to Bobrovsky's line of sight and rebound chaos ensues. Personnel-wise, it might be time to inject kids. Jackson Blake owns a sneaky release. Bradley Nadeau's feet never quit. Scott Morrow can skate a puck out of trouble when outlets vanish. Youth makes mistakes, but it also brings oxygen to a room slowly suffocating on lost confidence. Dress the rookies, shorten the bench, live on adrenaline. Better to burn out on boldness than fade out on caution. We'd be remiss not to credit the conquerors. The Panthers have spent 3 years converting playoff scars into calluses. Alexander Barkov is the modern-day Pavel Datsyuk, silky, sinister, unselfish. Sam Reinhart's hockey sense floods the ozone layer. Carter Verhaeghe scores off-angle daggers that rewrite momentum in a heartbeat. Behind them, Bobrovsky channels the 2019 version of himself. Wild glove flashes, patient feet, rebounds swallowed whole. Paul Maurice deserves a paragraph of his own. Once labeled a bridesmaid coach, he's sculpted a system that morphs by opponent. Against Tampa, track meet trading chances. Against Boston, Heavy body blows along the boards. Against Carolina, he's preaching patience. Trap, counter, punish. Adjusting on the fly is a skill, and Maurice owns the patent. So here we stand on the knife edge between panic and payback. If Carolina bows out in another sweep, the curse graduates from internet folklore to organizational tattoo, and off-season surgery begins the minute the handshake line ends. Players will be traded, contracts dissected, and coaching philosophies scrutinized. Another conference final faceplant almost guarantees seismic change. But if the Hurricanes land a punch tonight, just one, they shove that broom back into Florida hands and demand an answer. They yank the locker room whiteboard off Destiny's wall and scribble a different ending. One win doesn't erase 15 ghosts, but it muffles their laughter long enough to dream. The puck drops in hours. A franchise teeters between bitter history and brave possibility. The next 60 minutes could echo through Raleigh for a decade. Panic or payback? We're about to find out.